This is a cell. It is the basic unit of all life. In its nucleus is the genetic information for life. This is a young muscle cell called a myoblast. Its unique ability to fuse with other myoblast cells, to form myotubes, and then to form mature muscle cells are proving to be the keys to treating a host of genetic diseases. The life-saving secrets of this tiny but powerful cell are being uncovered by Dr. Peter Law and his team here at the Cell Therapy Research Foundation in Memphis, Tennessee. This child suffers with muscular dystrophy. The disease causes victims to lose control of their muscles, and eventually they will suffocate as breathing muscles stop working. Duchenne muscular dystrophy usually suffocates the life out of its victims by the time they reach their early 20s. Dr. Peter Law has been pursuing a cure for MD for a decade, yet he believes his latest discovery here at the University of Tennessee, Memphis, could mean the end of this disease.
Scientist Peter Law established the Cell Therapy Foundation to pursue research he began in Toronto and later moved to the University of Tennessee. Law's independent research center has become the world leader in an emerging form of transplant medicine that may apply to a whole range of untreatable, incurable diseases.
Is there any treatment? No, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. That's such a hopeless feeling.
All of those things. You feel angry, responsible. You feel alone. You're angry at the medical profession.
There is nothing else out there available for these kids. There is no cure on the horizon. There is virtually nothing happening at this point in time and has not in the past other than what appears to be Dr. Law's program.
My goal in life is to find a treatment for this fatal and debilitating disease, helping these children and at the same time helping their family.
By 1998, in the FDA-approved Phase 2 and Phase 3 clinical trials, we have demonstrated in the myoblast injector muscle significant efficacies as follows. First, the production of dystrophin. Second, increase of 70% of normal muscle fibers and overall histological improvement. Third, maximal isometric contraction increased by 123% at 18 months after treatment. Fourth, serum CPK decreased by 48.7% over 12 months. Fifth, the forced vital capacity increased by 19% at 9 months after treatment. Sixth, 75% of the subjects showed improvement in physical activities. 7. Life prolongation. The safety record was 100%. None of the 280 subjects passed away due to the treatment or suffered any permanent adverse reactions.
It's a Saturday morning, and over 100 parents from around the world have come to Memphis to learn more about a new treatment for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, a crippling disease in boys that's usually fatal. The man they've come to see is Peter Law, a Ph.D. in neurophysiology, who says he can strengthen Duchenne patients' muscles by injecting them with cells from healthy donors.
From our work, we now know that cell therapy can not only repair the degenerating cells, but at the same time replenish cells that have lost during degeneration.
Dr. Law's test of the technique on mice affected by a form of muscular dystrophy yielded encouraging results.
The healthy cells were selected from a normal mouse and cultured, producing many thousands of perfect functioning embryonic cells, myoblasts.
By 1987, animal studies were clearly showing that myoblast transfer therapy was effective. The majority of dystrophic mice, once treated with myoblast transfer therapy, showed almost no signs of the disease. By every measure of muscle function, the ability of treated mice was virtually the same as that of unaffected mice. The success of myoblast transfer therapy is coming after more than 20 years of painstaking work by Dr. Law and his team. And because the whole concept was unlike anything in modern medicine, often the team had to develop entirely new technologies and procedures. In humans, having the disease means that muscle cells waste away. They continuously degenerate and are replaced with fat and scar tissue. In February 1990, Sam Looper of Pickens, South Carolina, became the first human to undergo myoblast transfer therapy to test the safety and efficacy of the procedure.
The injections will be made by clinical investigator Dr. Gerald Golden into the muscle that moves Sam's big toe. In coming months, the strength of that toe will be compared to that of Sam's other big toe, which is receiving a sham injection containing no myoblasts.
Cell therapies laboratories have developed new technology to scale up the initial mouse research to create the much greater numbers of cells needed for trials in human subjects. The procedure's safety and effectiveness were established by treating one foot muscle in each of 11 dystrophic boys.
We culture only the good ones, and constantly we have to take them and monitor to see if they have the ability of migration, alignment, the cell fusion, whether they have the ability to multiply, to divide, and finally forming myotubes.
Myoblast transfer therapy is a cell therapy being developed as a universal treatment for muscular dystrophy and related disorders. Through a cell fusion process that occurs laterally and spontaneously during muscle development and regeneration, the donor myoblast inserts full complements of normal genes into the dystrophic muscle cells. The essence of myoblast transfer therapy is to actually introduce through cell transfer the full complement of normal genes into defective cells. Now, with such technology, one should be able to handle almost all of the genetic diseases, because now with a full complement of normal genes, when they are regulated and expressed, it does not matter which particular gene is abnormal, it does not matter which protein is missing, still the abnormal cells will be taken care of.
The work that's being done here is pioneer work. It's of extraordinary medical importance and historic importance. The era of applying molecular genetics is upon us. This may be the first instance in which there's been a direct clinical application.
After 3 months of clinical trials using myoblast transfer on 11 children, we demonstrate significant improvement in muscle function, cell structure, as well as the production of dystrophin, a protein that is usually not produced in the Duchenne muscular dystrophy boys. This correction of human gene defect was published in July 1990, 2 months before French Anderson began his ADA deficiency studies.
News of the event immediately captured worldwide attention in both the press and the scientific community.
Would you welcome Dr. Leon Cherish right there?
This year has seen a number of spectacular triumphs for muscular dystrophy research. We're about to meet the first family to have been initiated in a breakthrough treatment called myoblast transfer therapy, a treatment which is entirely without precedent in all of medical history. And a number of other children have been similarly treated, and the results are really very, very promising. The next step for Sam, Dr. Law is going to go into stage 2, where a large group of bigger muscles will be treated. But Mrs. Luber?
When Sam was diagnosed, the doctors told us there was no treatment, no cure, and virtually no hope. And now, 3 years later, Sam has had the first myoblast treatment, and it has been successful.
It is definitely a treatment.
And then when we got the results, it confirmed that this had worked and helped in the small muscle.
At this particular stage, it really is to prove that the technique is safe and effective in one small muscle of the foot. Then the next step is to go on
to phase 2 study in which we'll be injecting cells into all of the major muscle groups in the leg of the patient. At that moment, within 1 year to 2, one should be able to see significant behavioral improvement if the study is a successful one.
Confronting families with tremendous sadness and grief and expectations and not being able to do anything really to fundamentally alter the course of the disease is an extremely difficult task and a very discouraging one. And suddenly to have something that has light at the end of the tunnel where we may be onto a treatment that would actually potentially turn this around is extremely exciting.
Jesse is the second of 3 boys in the family of John and Shireen Davidson. He has Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Tyler, the Davidsons' oldest son, is an ideal donor for muscle tissue. To Jesse Davidson, it is the city of hope. Jesse's parents have brought him to Memphis to seek the help of another Canadian who is pioneering a dramatic new form of medical treatment, cell therapy. In his research center in an industrial park in suburban Memphis, Law takes healthy muscle tissue from a donor, selects fast-growing immature cells called myoblasts, and cultures vast numbers of them for injection into the fading muscles of boys like Jesse.
We see a lot of hope, that the program can work.
Now, even though there is the only one chance, it's 100% more than it was before. So it really does give us a lot of hope.
The cell therapy team uses sophisticated equipment to get objective measures of muscle function. This final test of Jesse's remaining strength before he is given a myoblast transfer will be the baseline for future checks to determine if Law's inspired idea really works.
Ready, set, go. Big one, big one, big one. Come on, keep it up there, keep it up there. Climb it, 190, spike it up, keep it up, keep it up, keep it going. Up, 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 up. Good, woo, 190 something. Beautiful.
Why don't you come down to this part of the pink and then walk back.
Further documentation of the experiment. Perhaps the making of medical history. Jesse's legs appear strong, but that overdeveloped look is really just fatty tissue that forms when real muscle dies and isn't replaced.
We are injecting 5 billion embryonic muscle cells called the myoblasts into 22 major muscle groups in both lower limbs of the Duchenne muscular dystrophy child. Now, this is to hope that we'll be able to strengthen their muscles in both legs and to allow them to stand up and be able to walk. Or for those ones that are going into the wheelchair, we hope to delay going into the wheelchair.
Jesse has also been preparing. Being injected with donor cells will challenge his immune system. He has started taking cyclosporin, the Swiss-developed drug that will diminish his body's natural efforts to destroy tissue that is not his own. 32 boys have been selected for this phase of the research. Jesse is attended by Dr. Holcomb, an anesthetist, a respiratory technologist, and 2 nurses. Dr. Law, whose degree is in neurobiology rather than medicine, will coordinate the flow of syringes from the sterile preparation room to Dr. Holcomb's hand. 4 other research teams in Canada and the U.S. are also exploring cell therapy, but Law's work is the most advanced.
Almost every family would call us and telling us that their children show certain behavioral improvement, but from our standpoint, we want very objective scientific evaluation, and namely, we use force transducers to measure how strong the muscles are. And subsequently, we published the results in which we demonstrate that about 81% of the muscle groups that we make injection into, they show either increase in strength or else no further deterioration.
This is the muscle down here you're going to use. Okay, so pull back, use that muscle. That's it, you got it. Okay. All right, here we go. Ready, set, now go! Come on, go, 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 big as you can, Jess. Pull it, pull it, pull it, pull it, pull it. That's it, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. Nice.
I think about 3 weeks ago, for the first time, he came forward and said to us that he actually thought he was getting stronger. That was the first time that he's actually said it.
Certainly from what we've seen, we have had absolutely no untoward effects, no complications, and no side effects. We know from our 3-month and 6-month data that it appears to be efficacious.
I felt confident that this was going to work. As I said, if not right now, then somewhere down the road.
Consultant George Vastog.
I have not seen in publication from the other locations, from the other institutions, anything that would describe an adverse reaction. I went through all the medical history of the boys here at Cell Therapy Research, and there was none, which is it's somewhat unusual because normally a new drug will have some sort of an adverse effect. There is just none, so I assume it's as safe as anything can be.
From 1994 to 1998, the FDA allowed Cell Therapy Research Foundation to charge $70,000 to $150,000 US per Myoblast transfer therapy on one patient, and the program was put on phase 3 fast-track development. The FDA spokesperson, Monica Rivera, said, "Permission to bill for an investigational product is granted rarely. Applicants must endure numerous procedures and must have what looks like a viable product at the end of the rainbow."
Even 6 years after Myoblast transfer, one can still find dystrophin in the Myoblast injected muscle, but not in the placebo injected muscle. At 18 months after Myoblast transfer, the creatine kinase level in the serum show a reduction of 38%, indicating that the dystrophin repairs the membrane leakage. Instead of natural deterioration without transplant, like this for the muscle function, with the 25 billion cell transplant, you can maintain the muscle function so that the patient no longer gets so much weaker. And whereas with 50 billion cells, the muscle function increased significantly. The more Myoblast you give, the more strengthening of the muscle would there be.
Ready, set, go! Big one, Sam, big one. Hard as you can. Come on, Sam. Harder, 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 harder. Come on. That's it.
Sam Looper of Pickens, South Carolina. He was Peter Law's initial human subject, first in a test to prove that cell therapy was safe and effective, then in an operation like Jesse's to restore his failing legs. 11-year-old Sam is back in Memphis for tests of the procedure's effectiveness. Larry Looper, who had the toughest decision of any parent because Sam was the very first, calls the changes unbelievable.
It's been almost 9 months, and Sam could tell like within probably 2.5 to 3 months. He said he was getting stronger, and it's just very noticeable now. It's unbelievable how much stronger his legs, his lower body is than what it was like a year ago. His mobility is greater. He can his distance walking is. He used to get tired and have to stop a lot. He can go all the way through malls. He has me sitting down. People will not believe what's going on up here.
Sam now can control this heavy four-wheeler.
Sam, can you raise your arm up for me? Raise up your arms. Voila!
Jeff received his first Myoblast transplant 5 years ago. Now aged 14, he does not require the use of a wheelchair. Instead, he participates in many sports.
Yeah, hit it right here.
Yeah! Whoa!
Now, see how you
Whoa!
get that ball?
Did you get that? I hope you got that. Whoa!
Now, there you go. There you go. Wow.
Hey! I can't shoot it like... Good.
Here, as you can see, Jeff can turn around and walk up this gradual incline on his own. Receiving 30 billion myoblasts has kept him walking instead of wheelchair bound, which he probably would have been by the age of 12. Also, walking down the incline, Jeff can step off of the curb on his own and open the door to his truck. Also, being able to climb into the truck on his own. Now that he is 16, he has his driver's license and will drive his truck by himself.
Since the upper body transplant, I've been able to hit the ball longer, playing golf, and for a longer time. Before I could only use really light clubs, but now I can use as heavy clubs as my dad uses. When I've been swimming, I can swim for a bit more of a longer time, and I can do my backstroke a bit easier. And I feel happier in the pool than I did a couple of weeks ago.
3 months after myoblast transfer, Nicholas can kick much stronger. After receiving the myoblast transfer, strength is increased in both quadriceps and hamstring muscles.
His neck certainly has been stronger. We also feel that he is much more confident in himself. Both my wife and I feel very confident in what they've done for us and also Nicholas so far.
Most of these things, if not all of them, he's better at now than he was a year ago. He started off lifting these 3-pound weights. A year ago, that was a struggle for him. And when he's feeling especially good, we have him do a 15-pound. Now this is heavy, but every once in a while he can even do a 15-pounder. It's a struggle, but he makes it.
Good. Even at this late stage of the disease, Carl still can move his arms and legs. He can control his respirating muscles, which one day may save his life by being able to cough out infections.
Carl's ability to sing suggests the strengthening of his accessory respiratory muscles.
春去秋来，岁月如流，游子上漂泊。回忆儿时，家居细细，光景宛如走。茅山川，老梅一树，树底觅苍洲。高枝啼鸟，小船游鱼，曾把仙境投。
Since the injections, we've seen he seems to be stronger on the stairways. He can go up faster. He can come down by himself now before he couldn't. He doesn't get as tired when he runs as much. His stamina seems more. His legs doesn't hurt. He's climbing better. He has a tree house. He's jumping on a trampoline every day. Just overall stronger. You know, we've talked to other people and they've seen the same thing. There's another family in Rome that they have 2 boys that have it. And if you look at Joseph compared to them, there's no comparison. Joseph's just so much stronger since the injections.
8-year-old Duchenne boys usually cannot run or balance.
Matthew Hallett, 11 and a half, has been using a wheelchair for 6 months. Matt could not stand before myoblast transfer.
The most significant thing that I was involved with was the first time he stood by himself in his braces, and he realized that he was doing something on his own that he had wanted to do.
Logan is one of only 64 boys throughout the world participating in this clinical trial, which began last April. At this time last year, Logan could only walk with the help of someone physically moving his legs. But now, thanks to cell therapy, he's beginning to walk on his own strength.
Not only has his muscle strength improved in his legs, his attitude has really changed.
The future holds, truthfully, the results of how the kids do. And right now, those results are very positive.
In January, phase 2, Logan will receive MTT cell therapy in his upper body and hopefully continue to take tiny steps towards a full recovery. In Flint, Sanchin Singer, News 5.
7-year-old Johnny Donnelly was still able to walk in 1990. A year later, however, he needs the full-time use of a wheelchair. 6 months after myoblast transfer therapy, Johnny is able to pedal his big wheel tricycle, something he could not do before the transfer.
Auf den Rücken,
Rene has gained strength and developed coordination of his neck, back, arm, and leg movements.
Two weeks already after transplant, we noticed that Patrick, who's a drummer and a very, very talented drummer, was able to play a lot longer than before transplant. Before transplant, he would also have certain days where he would feel not that strong, and he would mention it a bad day. And ever since transplant, he has never had such a day, and his drumming today is around 4 to 5 hours non-stop. Another thing which we would like to mention is that while Patrick's drumming, he is sitting on a normal drum stool, which one calls a throne, and he is able to sit there free with no armrests, no backrests, as I mentioned before, 5 hours or longer even. Gradually we noticed, this took a little bit longer, this was between 3 to 6 months. We noticed also that Patrick was developing a tiny bicep muscle, which was very, very exciting for the whole family and particularly for himself. Now, after 10 months post-transplant, is that he is still gaining in strength.
Jerry Lewis has become to Labor Day what fireworks are to the 4th of July. You may not get to see them, but you can be sure they're out there. This will be the 28th year Lewis has been doing the muscular dystrophy telethon. A few years ago, doctors on the telethon got excited about a radical new treatment for the incurable disease. What happened to it? Edie Magnus reports from Dallas, where she's on assignment.
Connie, today many of those same doctors label this treatment as worthless. And while the experts argue, as usual, parents are caught squarely in the middle. Okay. Chris and Patrick have the most common childhood form of muscular dystrophy called Duchenne's, affecting boys almost exclusively.
Drew was our poster child for 2 years, and he's given so much of himself.
We hear a lot about these children each Labor Day on the Muscular Dystrophy Telethon. A lot about hope and love and courage. But what can get lost are the appalling facts.
14-year-old Christopher Furlong has been using a wheelchair for 4 years. 3 months after myoblast transfer, his mother saw improvement.
He was never able to move in the pool in the past, that last summer. With physical therapy and with the transplant, we have noticed a great deal of movement. In fact, Chris is only happy in the pool because he has motion. He can walk around the pool. Some of his physical therapy techniques are to do laps around the pool. So he can do a lap around the pool. I'm not sure the time frame, but he's able to do a lap around the pool. He's able to bounce up and down. He's able to climb one step of the ladder in the pool, which is unheard of for Christopher.
6 months after myoblast transfer therapy, Chris is able to walk forward instead of sideways, indicating strengthening of the quadricep muscles. His turning indicates strengthening throughout the lower body.
No, not down, up. Chris and Pat were among the first 32 boys injected with 5 billion myoblasts in the muscles of their legs.
1, 2, 3. Push, 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 push.
This is the only way Patrick can get out of his wheelchair right now. But he says before his myoblast transfer, he couldn't even do that. And the boy's physical therapist agrees they've gotten stronger.
Chris basically couldn't even move his legs against gravity before he had the transplant. He can walk around in the pool now, and he couldn't do that before.
The government just gave Dr. Law permission to launch yet another round of experiments, this time using myoblast transfer in the entire body. And 2 weeks ago, Connie, Chris Furlong became the first child ever to take part in that experiment. They'll know in about 3 months if injections into the muscles of his upper body are making him stronger.
Thank you, Edie.
At 9 months after myoblast transfer, randomized double-blind study showed dystrophin and improved muscle cell structure in the myoblast injected muscles, but no dystrophin, only fat and connective tissue in the placebo injected muscles.
Even 18
18 months after myoblast transfer with the 50 billion cell, you can still see a very gradual increase in muscle function amounting to over 123%. Instead of the lateral deterioration of the forced vital capacity, the myoblast transferred subjects showed improvement of the pulmonary function, probably due to the strengthening of the accessory respiratory muscles. And hopefully in time can prolong their lifespan in addition to improving their overall quality of life by strengthening their leg muscle, their arm muscle, etc.
Hello, today is June 5th, 2017. My name is Eugene, I'm 41. I live in Moscow, Russia. I have verified diagnosis of Duchenne muscular dystrophy since 7 years old. In 1996, I was undergone by myoblast transfer therapy at the Cell Therapy Research Foundation in Memphis, Tennessee, United States. Just before therapy, I have loss of weight and other breathing dysfunction, but after the therapy I have improved my muscle strength and breathing function and overall condition. During these 20 plus years, I'm able to do my everyday routines, such as washing in the morning, eat some meal without any assistance, etc. Also, I'm able to using my wheelchair throughout the day, traveling around the city and also overseas. I think that's it. Thank you for watching.
Likewise, Nicholas Page and Nick Rowe, who were treated more than 20 years ago at Cell Therapy Research Foundation, are now 35 and 34 years of age.
My name is Torrance Hill. I'm 26 years old. It was 7 or 8 years old I got DMD. Yeah. And a wheelchair and 10 years old. And I did the the transplant. I play hockey. I played hockey for 11 years.
Yeah, and Nolan, after the Nolan, was transplant, he's been played floor hockey until last year. 做完这个 myoblast 以后，这个10年，他可以把这些个船都做完了。他的 cruise， 他每年坐船都坐完整个加勒比海岛。是，对，他是一直都是很有劲的 traveling， 然后是这样子说，他是过得很好了。after 这个 training 是过得很好，他的生活。对，他也完成了他自己的。大学教育上了2000尺的阿尔卑斯山。哇，对，就是他的肺还很好。
You're watching Dateline, winner of 1998 Emmy Awards for Investigative Journalism, Outstanding Breaking News Coverage, and Outstanding Coverage of a Continuing News Story.
Now a Dateline Healthline.
Life is precious and fragile for 30-year-old David Clemens, who suffers from a devastating and fatal genetic disease. David was only 3 years old when his parents began to notice signs. What they would face were years of torment and agony. But now this man has given them hope.
For scientists, our goal is to develop something that would help mankind.
Dr. Peter Law is the chairman of the Cell Therapy Research Foundation in Memphis, Tennessee. The FDA has allowed him to conduct an experimental treatment on humans called myoblast transfer therapy, or MTT. Dr. Law says it may actually improve muscle strength in people like David.
This is the medicine of the future.
MTT involves taking healthy premature muscle cells from a donor, multiplying them in a lab by the billions, and then injecting them into the patient. The goal is for the new and healthy injected cells to repair and create muscle fibers.
it has the ability to deliver the normal gene into any genetically sick patient.
Dr. Law's foundation is currently the only group in the world doing MTT on humans, and they have conducted the procedure on over 120 patients. After years in a wheelchair, David took his first few halting steps, exceeding expectations of his treatment. And while some may question whether this is truly walking, for David and Dr. Law, it has been a glimpse of freedom. David's hometown physician, Dr. George Brown, has known David since he was 2 years old and attributes his improvements to MTT.
How could this person who has documented weakness of his muscles and his respiratory problems, which he has no control over, suddenly improve? You know, there's just no placebo effect. I'm sure of that.
When I took those 3 or 4 steps, it was, you could say it's a miracle. It's a miracle from science.
Squeeze. Good one.
David says until his treatment, nothing had worked. He couldn't stand or walk at all.
How long can you stand now, and how far can you walk?
I can stand 10 to 12 minutes. I could take 40 steps.
So would you recommend this treatment as it is today to every muscular dystrophy patient?
Yes.
Without question?
Yes. I feel like I'm gaining back my independence to a point, you know. 40 steps might not seem a lot, but to me, taking 40 steps is like you run a marathon and winning it.
As for David, he now says he's taking up to 70 steps, though with some assistance. He's getting married next March, but doubts he'll be strong enough to walk back up the aisle with his bride.
Milton Ragsdale suffers from Becker muscular dystrophy. He is the first adult who is allowed to have, through the FDA, a full-body myoblast treatment.
To me, it's not research, it's life.
It's changed our whole lives. He's wheeling himself in his manual wheelchair again, which he hadn't done in a couple of years. He's has a tremendous energy level. Well, his pulmonary function increases every time steadily.
The physical changes that I've seen is that he's now able to shake your hand. He's able to negotiate his wheelchair. You know, the hand controls, which he was not able to do at the time. And he was slowly, it appeared to me anyway, that he was losing the muscles in his back. He was not even able to hold his neck up, and he's able to do that today. This offers hope to people that were hopeless. What we'd like to do is get through the testing process and have this approved as a treatment for muscular dystrophy. And at that point in time, anybody afflicted with this terrible disease could come and receive the transplant and receive the help and the hope that's available to them through this.
Stepfather of the President of the United States, you're a very, very busy man, and we certainly have appreciated your giving your time and energy to what we're doing and trying to help Milton.
When I first met Milton, he couldn't move his arms, much less shake hands with you. And Milton's attitude at the time was one of, well, here I am. What can I mean, this is the way it came across to me. He can shake hands with you now. He can even stand, as I understand. And this is such a great thing for the program of Dr. Law.
You've mentioned Dr. Law several times.
Yes.
Tell me about your feelings about Dr. Law and the foundation he represents in Memphis.
Well, I'll tell you, I've got a lot of faith in Dr. Law. He is so genuine and so interested. His life is dedicated to helping people like Milton. And I was so impressed with David in there a while ago. He couldn't walk, he couldn't move his facilities, and today he's able to stand up, he's able to walk. Now, in spite of what some factions in this country think about Dr. Law, this man can do what he says he can do, and he is proving that to me through my friend Milton and my new acquaintance David.
Any words of encouragement you might have to somebody out there that's afflicted with muscular dystrophy?
If they could get into Dr. Law's program, there's no question in my mind but what they can be helped.
Melissa is a 25-year-old with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. She had to walk with assistance before the myoblast transfer. She regained her ability to walk by herself at 3 months after the myoblast transfer. Another limb-girdle muscular dystrophy patient, Kudos, now 36, was able to raise his arms and legs higher 6 months after myoblast transfer, indicating that the muscles in the upper and lower limb girdle had been strengthened.
生物产业是我国战略性新兴产业之一，市场规模全球第2。在武汉，城市合伙人罗盖教授的到来，却让我国在基因治疗方面一跃成为世界的 No.1。
通过掌握基母细胞移植技术，罗盖教授破译了基因治疗的密码。到目前，这项技术已经成功治疗了近600例病例，癌症、心脏病、肌肉萎缩、恶性糖尿病等现代医学的不治之症，在中国有了破解之道，让肌细胞重生，从根源上治病。这样的技术处在世界最尖端，各国都在加紧研发。早在1990年，罗盖教授就在医学最权威杂志《柳叶刀》上第一个发布相关研究成果。2009年，受光谷3551人才计划的吸引，罗盖教授回到祖国，并决心在武汉创业。
我国2015年3月28号检查出那个庞贝病以后，我们当时的情况非常的严重，就是已经进重症监护室了，很多功能都在衰退。然后15年10月28号，我们有机会做了基母细胞移植。然后手术半年以后，我们做呼吸血氧饱和度也能达到100%，4个月以后就开始有所改善。现在如果说做的话，可以自由的向4周转身，而且也可以做那个俯卧的时候，脖子那个也能支撑，手部也能支撑起来，脖子也能抬得很高。俯卧45度也可以自己坐立起来。之前这些都是做不到的，而且肌肉方面，就是做手术之前肌肉是非常僵硬的，很硬。然后现在来说，肌肉已经感觉会比较柔软、有弹性一些。从一个只有8公斤多一点的小宝宝，现在已经能够正常的达到那个正常小孩的一个发育标准，现在是10.5公斤左右。就是很感谢基母细胞给我们一次重生的机会。狗狗好棒呀！再加一个，再加，哇，这么棒！狗儿跳一个舞，我再看看，再跳一个舞，这么棒！手呢？手怎么跳？站高，站高，对手，直起腰来，直起腰来。啊对啊，洗，他在给小狗洗澡，对不对？狗儿抬高高，我看看。哦，好高呀！那条腿呢？来，再抬。真棒，自己坐起来啦！
Guoguo is now 3 years old. Most children with Pompe's type 2 cannot survive past the age of 2.
开始吧，第3个基本它就是可以抬，这边可以扎开，手腕翻一下，翻手腕，手腕也翻，手腕翻，手肘，扎开有力。它这个地方呀，原来这个地方摸了啊，这个地方你这个都是纤维，都是那个脂肪结的东西，现在摸了都是肌纤维，很明显的蛮厚的肌纤维，这里长了很多。连哭都没得眼泪。看到啊，开始吧。OK， 好，第4个题目就哪里就是他的手会抓到这。对，那经理怎么发不就完了？这边碰到你看到没有？然后抓了那么长时间，手上的力量抓力量，力量，那经理懵了，第一件抓力量很大呀，手指力量，OK。
All I'm doing is worthwhile. All these important works that I envisioned that I should do, I must do, that I must follow through, because there's very little time for some of these children.
Researchers refer to what you've been doing as pioneering. Does it put a little burden on you to make certain that you deliver the perfect treatment?
I think that the drive is always there. The pressure, in a way, is not necessarily on, because I want to do the thing that I want to do, and that's why I'm here.
Obviously, you have devoted your life to it, and we congratulate you on the progress you've made, and wish you every bit of success, certainly for all of those who depend on your results. So
it's absolutely kind of you. I've been on it for about 17 years, and I wish to go on until it's done.